Ah, stop share. Bonjour tout le monde. Good morning and welcome to our Sunday service for Sunday, August the 30th, 2020. Bienvenue à notre service pour le 30 août 2020. Vous êtes les bienvenus. Welcome. This morning, the sermon will be given by Reverend Serge Brosseau. Ce matin, le sermon sera livré par Serge Brosseau. Alors, premièrement, on commence avec une pièce de musique classique choisie par le pasteur. We will have a song by a classical piece of piano music. So let's over to the music. Thank you, Pierre. Thank you for that. Serge chose this music. I'm curious as to where the background is, and looks like nice scenery, and the fact that there are two pianists in sync makes it even more interesting. So thank you for that. Maybe later Serge can tell us where he videotaped all that. Maybe he didn't. So at this point, I'd like to share my screen and share the announcements for this Sunday. Will be a second here while I do that. It's not what I want to share. I want to share that. Yeah. Can you see my screen? I will make it larger. Hold
Yes,
on.
we can.
Okay, good. So the announcements this week is we will have a FPU UPF webinar tonight at 6 p.m. Alors aujourd'hui, à 18h, we have a UPF webinar. One of the blue hats from Yemen, who is a good contact of Gino and Yuko, will be speaking about his experiences for the cause of peace on the front line in Yemen. Next Sunday, we will have a nationwide Sunday service at 10 a.m. Dr. Munshik Kim will speak, and this will be broadcast from coast to coast. Our brothers and sisters from Vancouver, Alberta, Manitoba, and Nova Scotia, Quebec, and Ontario will all join. We'll try to do this regularly across Canada from now on. Next Monday, the 7th of September, we will have our picnic. Location to be announced and also weather. Please pray for good weather. Peace Road will be on September 19th in Montreal, where the departure will be from City Hall in Saint Laurent, and will end at City Hall in Montreal Nord. And the mayors of hopefully both cities will be in participation. So please be aware of that. There will be an international leadership conference between September 11 to 13, not 9 to 11, but 11 to 13. And that will be broadcast around the world. There will be 3 clusters: Asia Pacific, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and North and South America, including Central America. And this will be going on 24 hours a day because of the time zones. So if you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning, as some of you are, you can plug into some session that's taking place in Asia. And if you're up at midnight, you might be able to plug into something that's on in Europe, and so forth. And those will be the cases. So there will be 6 sessions or 7 sessions, including all the different associations of UPF. The next Rally of Hope, Rassemblement d'Espoir, will be on the 27th in Korea of September, which will be the evening of the 26th, and we're in preparation for that. If you haven't heard already, the blessing was postponed to the 10th of October. And I should mention that this coming September 4th, which is Friday in Korea, which will be the third in the evening here. That's this coming Thursday night. There will be a live broadcast of the ceremony for True Father's 8th Sangwa or Ascension anniversary. So please stay tuned for announcements about that. Of course, the autobio in French, we're still waiting. L'autobiographie en français n'est pas prêt encore, mais bientôt. And again, Tuesdays, we have our fellowship meeting at 10 p.m. Syrup is every Saturday at 5:30. They have French translation on the National American Service, which starts at 11 a.m. Alors, il y a de la traduction en français pour le service national américain chaque dimanche à 11 heures. And there are many meetings. Please check your email. And again, I encourage you to make your donations for the different purposes that you see on the email electronically, or you can send a check to the office and we will take care of it. Thank you again. I would like to now ask Pierre to prepare the next piece of music, which I understand is Nessun Dorma, which means nobody sleeps. Nobody sleeps. And it's about overcoming darkness and winning over darkness. So let's listen to this piece chosen by Serge this morning.
Nessun dorma, tu pure, o principessa, nella tua fredda stanza, guardi le stelle che tremano d'amore e di speranza. Saprà, nonna, sola tua bocca lo dirò quando la luce splenderà. Ed il mio bacio scioglierò il silenzio che ti fa mia. Stelle all'alba vincerò, vincerò, vincerò.
Ooh, thank you for that. Whoever was the singer there, I don't recognize him, but his pronunciation was almost perfect. And I would say that it was a great rendition. So thank you so much for everyone. And I have a question there. We have a schedule for the International Leadership Conference. No, not yet. It's simply a draft of where, and we're trying to fill in the spots. We only found out 3 days ago or 4 days ago that we will be having that. We're inviting various people for different sessions, and we'll keep you informed as soon as we have a schedule. And now we have the great pleasure of listening to Reverend Serge Brosseau, who will speak this coming Sunday, which means now. It's the fifth Sunday of the month, and usually we have a special speaker on that day. And Melissa informs me that the singer was Christopher Macchio from New York. We've heard him before in different locations. Now we know he looks a little younger than he does now. In any case, at this moment in time, I'd like you to join us as we listen to Serge. Please mute yourself and we'll go from there. Serge, it's over to you. You're on the spot.
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So just to come back to the music videos that I chose this morning, the first piece was from an interesting duo. It was with the pianist Alain Lefebvre, who is from France originally, but who has been living in Quebec since his childhood. And the other pianist was Hélène Mercier, who is from Montreal, but now lives in Paris. And they played a piece by André Mathieu, who died in 1968. He lived to be only 39 years old, but when he was a child, he was a child prodigy, and he was considered to be the Canadian Mozart, just to let you know. And anyway, both pianists are world-class concert pianists. And the second piece, I chose it because it made me think of True Mother and her victory with Vision 2020. But I also thought of my father-in-law, Melissa's father, who was a trained opera singer. So this said, the title of my message today is Leading by Example. So we're still in August, and at the beginning of the month, our family, we took a 1-week vacation to visit our beautiful province. You know, we called it La Belle Province, and there's a reason for that. So we wanted to do a tour of the Gaspésie and the Baie des Chaleurs near New Brunswick, but unfortunately, it was booked everywhere, so we couldn't go there. So instead, we settled on visiting both sides of the St. Lawrence. And so we took 4 ferries, 2 long ferries, one of 1 hour, one of 2 hours, and 2 short ones. And we visited 2 islands, among other things. We visited Île aux Coudes and Île d'Orléans. Île d'Orléans is magnificent, so well preserved, and has some of the oldest churches in Quebec, still standing, dating back to the early 1700s. We stayed in Sainte-Anne-des-Monts, which is past Matane, at the beginning of the Gaspésie area. And on the other side of the river, we especially like the area around Tadoussac. Tadoussac itself is a beautiful site, which is connected to the history of Quebec from the very beginning. And we stayed near there, and from that area, we went to a place called L'Anse de Roche, which has a great view on the Saguenay River. That is the area where Christopher Guérin did his great hike that he spoke about and that was so inspiring. And when we were there, a nice lady told us to look, and we could see some belugas in the distance. But then she let us know about another place where we could see whales much closer. That place is called Cap de Bon Désir, which is a national park. It took us half an hour to drive there, but it was well worth it. That place is incredible. It looks like Peggy's Cove in Halifax, if you've ever been there, with its beautiful smooth rock formation by the ocean. At that site, the water by the shore is 300 feet deep, and the whales swim by often. We saw many whales while we were there for about an hour. You know, even though I had seen whales before, this time I fell in love with them. These mammals really catch our hearts. Like this summer when a young whale became adventurous and ended up in the Montreal harbor. It created a sensation. Everybody wanted to see the whale. Unfortunately, it did not make it because the whales are not meant to swim in fresh water. But all this to say that we enjoyed every moment of our vacation along the St. Lawrence. You know, Charlevoix and, for example, the Matapédia Valley, where we spend a little bit of time, are precious parts of God's creation for people to enjoy and to protect. As much as I love Montreal, it is great to get out of the city to see the beautiful countryside and to unplug. You know, along the Matapédia River, we saw people fly fishing for salmon, for example. The season was good. They were catching many salmon. And we met a nice man from Montreal, from Little Italy, and who was fishing there. So that was a great encounter. Actually, in her speech at the Rally of Hope, True Mother said, "This is the natural order of things. It is the same for the animal kingdom. Unless human beings destroy the environment, animals manage their numbers in accordance to the principles of creation and preserve their species." You know, in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, we were told that there are about 900 belugas left, when there used to be several thousands in the recent past. But they were fished at some time for their oil, and now their environment is fragile. While the population in the Arctic is still strong, here in Quebec, in our area, it is considered an endangered species. And the belugas, they are so lovable for their color and their expression. So therefore, we naturally want to protect them. Also, True Mother, in that speech that she recently gave at the Rally of Hope, she spoke about the monarch butterflies that travel from Canada to Mexico. You know, the population of monarch butterflies has also been decreasing substantially in the last few years in North America. There are efforts that are done to increase their numbers, and it's happening right here in our city, like in the borough of Saint Laurent. The monarch butterflies feed from a plant called milkweed. And there is a section in one of the parks here called the Parc Marcel Lorrain, where they planted seeds of milkweed so as to feed the caterpillar of the monarch butterflies. So hopefully that helped them. And we hope that the population increase. But belugas and monarch butterflies are examples of why we have to care for the preservation of our natural environment. But to get back to our family vacation, one of the area where we took the time to visit on the way back was Sainte-Anne-de-Beaupré, outside of Quebec City, with its grandiose and massive basilica. Catholics from all over still come there for a pilgrimage that is called La Neuvaine, which can last up to 9 days and which culminates at the Feast of Saint Anne, which takes place on July 26th. And we say that many miracles have taken place there to heal people in that particular basilica, that particular site. But the point is that in Quebec, we find the name Saint Anne in many places. For example, we talk of Mont Saint Anne to go skiing to, Saint Anne des Monts where we stayed, Saint Anne de Beaupré. So who was this Saint Anne? Well, we find a reference to Saint Anne in the Gospel of James, which is not one of the 4 Gospels of the Bible. James was a brother of Jesus, and in his Gospel we find out about the birth of Mary. So Anne was the mother of Mary and the grandmother of Jesus. Her husband was Joachim. So the Basilica of Saint Anne de Beaupré is dedicated to her. It is dedicated to the mother of Mary. In our traditional Catholic culture in Quebec, the traditional culture centers a lot on Mary, the mother of Jesus. A lot of monuments and entities are dedicated to her. Since Jesus did not marry, Mary, in a way, took the place of the feminine side of God in the collective psyche. The good aspect of that is that since the mother is the center of the family, Catholic cultures around the world have always had a strong sense of family. On the other hand, Protestant societies in the Christian world are more centered on the word of Jesus, and they tend to be more oriented on the individual relationship with God. But concerning the situation of Mary, true parents have spoken numerous times about her mission and her relationship with Jesus. For example, in a speech entitled View of the Principle of the Providential History of Salvation, given in 1996, True Father said, "We should also consider the influence that Joseph and Mary's relationship had on Jesus. Mary had to restore the position of Eve and Tamar through indemnity, so she should have remained as only the fiancée of Joseph. Providentially, they could not be husband and wife. It was God's desire that they do not have sexual relations either before or after Jesus' birth. Joseph still loved Mary after Jesus was born, but Mary should have wanted to separate from Joseph to raise Jesus as the Son of God. But the real circumstances did not make this easy to do. Even though Mary's original mind told her that she should not do so, she had sexual relationships with Joseph. They had children, which was a repetition of Eve's mistake. With the exception of Jesus, everyone who should have protected Jesus came under the dominion of Satan. His father, his mother, his Abel-type brothers, John the Baptist and his brothers, and his Cain-type brothers, the children of Joseph. So Mary risked her life to give birth to Jesus, and Joseph risked his life to protect Mary when she was pregnant. Therefore, they should be honored for that. But they should also have followed their original mind once Jesus was born, because they had received revelations to that effect. But of course, the circumstances of that time were not easy for them to do so. During my vacation, I had more time to read Mother's memoir. You know, this book here, this wonderful book Mother of Peace. And in that book, we find some important information concerning mother's upbringing and the circumstances of her life. For example, the fact that her parents were matched by a minister, Reverend Leo Bin, and that they were married for 9 years before she was born. It did not take so long for her to be born because they were infertile, but because they didn't live together. Her father was a teacher in a distant location, and her mother was completely dedicated to her church, which was preparing to meet the Lord of the Second Advent. At some point, though, her parents got together, and that is when she was conceived. Yet her parents did not stay together much after her birth either. Because of the policies of the communist government in North Korea, her father did not feel safe and wanted to move his family to South Korea. But when her mother decided to stay in the North because she wanted to continue her church work, her father decided to leave by himself. So when he left, this was the last time that she saw her father. And she was 4 years old then. She thought she would see him again, but she did not. Yet she did not feel hurt by his absence because she was always raised by her mother and her grandmother to believe that God was her father. Her father actually taught in 16 schools in South Korea over a period of 40 years and retired as a principal. One of the schools where he taught was in the village of Sorak, next to Champyeong. Therefore, True Mother feels connected to him. She recognizes the essential role that he played in her life, even though he wasn't there much. Mother also says in the book, "My mother believed that just as a child was given unto Mother Mary, a child would be born under her to govern the universe as God's begotten son or daughter. My mother read the gospel from that viewpoint and determined that, unlike Mary, she would support her child's heavenly mission with body and soul." And so from the Bible, we read in Luke 17:33, "Whoever tries to keep his life shall lose it, and whoever loses his life shall preserve it." In the book Mother of Peace, we find several instances in the life of True Mother where she was ready to lose her life. Like from a very young age, when she was 5 years old, when she left with her mother and grandmother from their hometown of Anju in North Korea to go to South Korea and cross the 30th parallel. Her mother carried her on her back, and they had to walk 200 kilometers over several days. They had no food and had to beg for some. Now, when they got near the border, they got captured by the North Korean soldiers. They were released eventually, but then they almost got shot by the South Korean soldiers who thought they were the enemy. But because of her singing, they recognized that it was a child and they did not shoot. She says, "Looking back, if I had not sung at that moment, those young soldiers probably would have mistaken us for North Korean soldiers and shot us dead. In this way, once again, God protected us. We arrived safely in South Korea after undergoing hardship such as these. Yet in making that journey, we parted from my grandfather, whom we never saw again." Another occasion that we find in the book came when Reverend and Mrs. Moon visited North Korea to meet with Kim Il-sung. We are well aware that the trip to North Korea was very risky and that anything could have happened. But the trip to the Soviet Union a year before was also risky. A coup was eventually orchestrated afterward by some military leaders against Gorbachev. It did not succeed, but that kind of situation could have occurred during their trip. In that regard, True Mother says, looking back, I reflect that it was at the moment communism reached its zenith that my husband and I risked our lives to go to Moscow and Pyongyang. With joyful hearts, as representatives of the free world, we embraced enemies that had severely persecuted us. By our doing so, they were moved and we could reconcile. Thus, we laid the foundation for unification and peace. We went to North Korea not to get something, but to give genuine true love. For the sake of God, my husband and I forgave the unforgivable. For the sake of humanity, we love the unlovable. Also, True parents spent a lot of time in South America in the mid 1990s. It was also very hot and they had to deal with a multitude of mosquitoes. That's when they held fishing workshops on the Paraguay River. I remember Dr. Lee, our national messiah, speaking about his experience there later on, a few years after when he went fishing. But about that experience, True Mother says, as beautiful as the Pantanal was, one had to be careful at all times. We would take a boat up the river, dock it, and explore the countryside. Sometimes we could barely get through tangles of vines hanging down from enormous trees, and we would have to crawl on our bellies. We often would not return to the boat until midnight. We would rely on a steel cable stretched out through the forest to guide us back in the dark. But even before that, True Mother literally risked her life in giving birth to many children. On that topic, she says, I gave birth to 13 children over a period of 20 years. The first 4 were born in our small private quarters at Champadan. It was not until our 5th child that I was able to go to the hospital. Though it taxed my body, I gave birth to children year after year. Our second daughter died a few days after her birth. Our final 4 were delivered by cesarean section. It is rare for a woman to go through a C-section more than once. When I said that I would undergo it for the 3rd time, my doctor hesitated, saying it was dangerous, especially for a woman of my age. The doctor did not understand how I could insist so calmly on another C-section, and he wanted to explain the issues to my husband. I assured him that my husband would agree with me, and I went through it for a 3rd and a 4th time, thus fulfilling a promise I had made to God. Another promise that True Mother made to God later on, after her husband passed away, was to restore 7 nations by 2020. In order to do that, True Mother challenged her physical limitation to visit countries all over the world on different continents. She went to Europe, East Asia, South America, and in Africa, she visited several countries. She visited Senegal, Zimbabwe, Niger, and went more than once to South Africa. The end of 2019 was particularly intense in order to fulfill the goal. About this, she remarks, through these events, the African continent and the entire world were profoundly changed. This summit will surely be remembered. Despite challenging circumstances, all those involved invested themselves with wholehearted unity. That is what sets the condition. Heaven could not but support these events. At the end of the day, I reflected that I am nearly 80 years old, and there is a limit to how long one can live on earth. However, Since I am the only begotten daughter and the mother of the universe, anywhere I am wanted, I plan to go. Heavenly Parent, once again, I offer you my deepest thanks. To conclude, I say that the Mother of Peace book is the story of an incredible woman. I read the 4 books of the anthology, but this book to me is more personal. It goes deeper into the essence of her character and her heart. It makes me feel, anyway, that what I did with my life has value. And anyone who reads this book with an open mind can be enlightened with her vision for peace. But I will say that though her words are a source of inspiration, it is her example that is most inspiring to me because she truly embodies her teachings. On page 266, we read, "No matter how difficult our work, we need to complete the providence and reveal the truth. When we fulfill our responsibility, following God as sunflowers follow the sun, we will surely realize Heavenly Parent's dream and humanity's hope. The question is whether we will be able to realize that vision while I am on earth. If we do, we will stand tall and proud in front of all our descendants and generations to come. There has never been such an opportunity. No matter how young or old you are living in the same era as the only begotten daughter. This is your golden age. Be grateful and do not miss this time." To me, this is the gospel of gospel, if we can believe it. But what can we learn from True Mother's example? I think that even though True Mother qualifies as the only begotten daughter, she tries her utmost to fulfill her responsibility. And so, even though we ourselves may qualify as blessed central families, we should also do our absolute best to fulfill our own portion. Even though now we have COVID and it's creating some limitations, some physical limitations among us, our message is now reaching out to millions at this time, as we saw with the Rally of Hope, thanks to new technologies. So God is working in amazing ways. Today, actually in the past, True Father told world leaders in one of his peace message to invest in developing projects like the Bering Strait Bridge Tunnel, instead of spending so much on armaments. True Mother today is asking world leaders why they want to invest so much money into space when we have so much to do here on Earth to take care of people and the environment. She says that this Earth was especially selected by God the Creator. It is God's beloved Earth. Our time on Earth is limited. She says that we need to align ourselves with the eternal life. Anyway, the fact that a humble woman like her from a war-torn country like Korea can now be in a position to lead a worldwide movement and be in a capacity to educate world leaders is a testimony to the power of God. True Mothers draws from that source, and that is why she can be successful, I think. In my case, I joined this movement like Gino in San Francisco. And one thing that I remember is that we used to sing a lot of songs in our workshops. One of our brother there at the time wrote a song that stayed with us and is one of my favorite. That was David Randall, who is now the leader in Chicago for the Midwest region. He wrote this song for Father, and I want to sing it for Mother to conclude. But I'm just going to sing the chorus. And it goes, sailing with our mother, you know her ship will never sway. Oh, new hope on the horizon. We've found the promised land today, and we'll be sailing with our mother. You know her ship will never sway. Oh, new hope on the horizon. We found the promised land today. We found the promised land today. Yes, we have. So I conclude with a prayer. Heavenly Parent, we thank you so much for this day, that even though in this time of COVID we cannot meet physically, but actually through technology we can meet and reach out to more people in our community. So we're thankful for that. We're thankful for the advancement of science. But we know that science need to find a way to discover you as well. And we pray for the unity of science and religion. And we pray for the success of True Mother's ministry, which is now enabling her to reach out to millions throughout the world. It is a global ministry indeed, but we ourselves need to act locally. So we pray that can guide us to do that we can be successful through our unity with her, through our unity with true parents, through our unity with one another, through our unity centered upon true love. Heavenly Parent, our true parents have been able to love their enemies, and they have been able to forgive. Heavenly Parent, we pray that we can forgive one another for our mistakes, for our wrongdoings, and that we can go in the spirit of unity and true love for the sake of peace in this world. Heavenly Parent, if we cannot find peace among ourselves, we cannot create peace in this world. So please guide us in that direction. Thank you so much for this day. I report this in the name of Serge and Melissa Brosseau of the Central Family. Adieu.
Merci, Serge. Thank you very much, Serge. Wonderful sharing that helps us to understand better our true parents and better their course, and also understand a little bit about our beautiful environment where we are. As Canada is such a wonderful country, and yesterday I was talking to Robert Kittle in Asia. He's in the Philippines, and he shared about this story in Samoa where the chief, or not the chief, the president of the country, or the prime minister, I should say, explained about Mother's story of the monarch flying from Canada to Mexico. And he asked the kids that were gathered, his grandchildren, how far it was to fly that kind of distance. And he basically explained that it's an example of filial piety, that's how he saw it, that you have to be loyal and faithful to your parents forever. And this is what that monarch example said to him. So we can see that obviously world leadership are paying attention to what Mother is saying, to what Mother is doing. And this is fantastic when you think that the message of our true parents is being broadly studied and widely circulated in a way like we never dreamed before. So thank you again. This is a special time, and it's a time for reflection. It's a time for us to understand better how our lives figure in this providence. And, we can always see things with the cup half full or half empty. So this COVID-19 circumstance should cause us to see things from the viewpoint of God's work in this time with a cup half full, because there are so many opportunities like never before.